Hello everyone. In this lecture, we want to mostly talk about the use of color in data visualization. We're going to learn how to use color in data visualization for various types of data. Furthermore, we will look at a number of visualization examples that use too many colors and put them in contrast with ones that use only a few colors. If I had to pick one thing in data visualization that people get wrong, it's color. We go into a visualization and we think that it is easy. We go with good intentions of organizing our data with colors and trying to perform many categorical comparisons, and we do that, but unfortunately the data visualization comes out looking like this. It is disorganized, the color doesn't mean what we think it does, and we frequently overuse the colors. Same data can often be explained in multiple ways. Consider these two dashboards. They have completely different messages, and yet the only difference is the title, the color, and the orientation of the bars. This looks like a smear of blood. This is emphasizing the number of deaths in Iraq during the war in 2000s and how it's been devastating. Here, without fundamentally changing the chart, we can convey a completely different message. We change the title from Bloody Toll to Death on the Decline. And we changed the red color to the blue color, and we flipped the bars. This way, we remove the evocation of blood. So now the message is that the situation in Iraq is improving. What we did was we flipped the bars, changed the title, and more importantly, we changed the color from red to blue, and that totally changed the message. Before we get into the details of using color to represent data, let's talk about different types of data. One way of grouping data is to say there are three types of data: categorical, ordinal, and quantitative. Categorical data represents things. These things are mutually exclusive labels without any numerical value. For example, continents, people, or drinks. These do not have any numerical values. And we have ordinal data. Ordinal data is similar to categorical data, except that it has a clear order. For example, medals, economical status, month, and pay scale of employees in a company. Although ordinal values often have numbers associated with them, the interval between those values is arbitrary. For example, the difference between poor economical status and good economical status might be lower than the difference between good economical status and excellent economical status. Or in a company, the difference between pay scale 1 and pay scale 2 might be very different from the difference between pay scale 3 and pay scale 4. Quantitative data means we have numbers. Quantitative or numerical data is data that can be measured and aggregated. For example, weight, cost, discount, and date. It should be noted that date can also be considered ordinal, as one date is bigger than the date before it, so there is a clear order. Color is one of the most common ways to visualize data, yet it's frequently misused. It's important to think about the purpose of color and how we are encoding the data using colors. We have earth tones and cool colors. These colors could be used to color code categorical data. And we have unnatural colors and warm colors. These colors are the colors that will draw audience's attention. They are alarming and will alert the audience of something. One of the most frequent mistakes in data visualization is the use of color. Here in this slide, I'm showing different coloring schemes for visualization of data. This is one of the most important slides we'll cover in the entire course. Important for the exam, for projects, and for any data visualization that you make after the class is over. The three primary ways you will use color in data visualization to encode the data are sequential, diverging, and categorical. And then there are two others that we listed, these two. They are really categorical comparisons, but there are only two colors in these two groups. Now, let's go over them one by one. The sequential color scheme, or palette, encodes a quantitative value from low to high. A darker blue is more than a lighter blue, and so the classic example of this would be sales. It starts at 0 and goes to infinity. We don't typically have negative sales. The diverging color scheme encodes a quantitative value, but it has a neutral midpoint. The midpoint could be 0, for example, in case of a company's profit. We could lose money or we could make money. So profit can be positive, encoded in blue, with darker blue showing higher profit, and profit can be negative, encoded in orange, with the darker orange showing a bigger loss. The midpoint does not have to be 0. It could be the average. For example, in case of unemployment, it would be the average unemployment rate in the country, and then one color showing the states below the average and the other color states above the average. The midpoint could also be a target value, such as last year's sale or this year's expected sales, and the two colors would encode values above and below that target. That's how we would use a diverging color scheme or palette. The categorical color scheme is pretty simple, and it encodes categories of different things. This might be apples, oranges, bananas, pears, etc. Or it could be something about cars, where we have our SUVs versus our mid-size sedans versus our pickup trucks and minivans. We are going to need to use different colors that have obvious contrasts in order to encode categories of different things. Consider this. It would be very difficult to use a sequential color scheme for categories, and that actually can get us into trouble. Imagine trying to figure out which shade of blue means apples and which shade of blue means oranges. The highlight color scheme is used to highlight one data point or category. For example, if you have states and then you want to highlight one specific state, you would do that with a highlighting color scheme. This color scheme allows the audience to pay attention to one state, such as California versus all other states. The last color scheme or palette is the alerting color scheme, which is used to draw the audience's attention, similar to the highlights color scheme, but in this case it's done with an alarming or alerting bright color to tell the audience that there is a problem going on and the audience should look into it. So it needs the audience's attention. You should note that in Western culture, red is often associated with bad or something alarming. This may not be the case in other countries or cultures. I should also mention here that these color schemes are actually built into the Tableau's engine. The names are slightly different, but they are available. And this is one of the things that I love about Tableau. In general, Tableau has the best practices for color. The schemes are built in and they depend on the peels that we drag over onto our canvas. This map of unemployment rate is an example of a sequential color scheme. The map shows the unemployment rate by state going from low, meaning 2.6%, to high, meaning 7.7%. And we are using a sequential color scheme. Unemployment rate is a quantitative variable, and therefore we used a sequential color scheme. In Tableau, when you move a green peel right at something that's continuous, that quantitative measure is going to use a sequential color scheme, just like this. This map is an example of using a diverging color scheme. Diverging is also a quantitative color scheme, but it is a little different. There is a neutral midpoint in diverging scheme with two colors meeting in the middle, as you see in here. This example is profit by state for a company. That's what you're seeing on the map. Profit doesn't start at zero, right? We could be losing money in our company, or we could be making money. There are numbers above zero, and there are numbers below zero. Here, darker orange indicates bigger losses, and darker blue shows higher profits. Again, remember that the midpoint in the diverging color scheme can be zero, like in this example, or it could be an average, or it could be a target. This chart is an example of the categorical color scheme. It shows the quantity of office supplies of a company in three broad categories of furniture, office supplies, and technology. Under each category, there are several subcategories visualized with the same color. Note that it would be very difficult to use a sequential color scheme for these broad categories and trying to figure out which shade of blue means furniture and which shade means office supplies and which one means technology. This is potentially where people start mixing up color and start producing visualizations that misuse colors or overuse colors. As we will see later, rainbow color schemes, which are also called spectral color schemes, may look exciting, but they usually do more harm than good. This slope graph represents an example of the highlighting color scheme. It shows sale in different states in 2014 and 2015. Here, the original slope graph is actually filtered to show only 7 states, and the Washington state is highlighted because we want it to stand out to the audience. However, the goal is not to alert or alarm the audience. The alerting color scheme is useful to alert the audience to something that needs attention, and it's done with an alarming or alerting color, such as red in Western culture, to tell the reader that something is wrong. In this example, we are alarming the audience, saying that 19 days is too long. We should go and perform an inspection. Our long-term memory works very well for storing lots of information related to past experiences that we constantly refer to. But our short-term memory can only hold a tiny bit of information for up to 30 seconds. Short-term memory is effectively our working memory, and it can be overloaded quickly and easily. Using too many colors means that we are reusing the same or similar colors, because as we increase the number of colors, we will eventually run out of colors that have lots of contrast, so we'll end up with similar colors. For example, in this chart, the colors for tables and storage categories are very similar, and therefore it is hard to tell them apart. Just because we have millions of colors to choose from doesn't mean we must use them all. We should use colors to enhance visualizations and make them easier to read, not to obscure the data by creating visual puzzles. Some people say using more than 5 colors is not good, but I can safely say that using more than 8 colors in your visualization is definitely not good. So this colorful visualization of profit versus discount for different categories of merchandise gets a screaming cat. This shows a graph comparing 2 different data sets using 13 different letters. Although each letter uses its own color to indicate the value, there are so many colors and values, so it requires the audience to constantly check back and forth to ensure that the color they are looking at in the key is actually the color they are looking at in the data set. Here we are simply labeling the bars on the chart, and so we can avoid the colors altogether. This is much simpler and it does a better job communicating with our audience. Once we reach 8 different categories or more, the task of matching colors to categories becomes too burdensome to be useful, even if the colors remain sufficiently different. Here is an example of the use of color in real practice. In this dashboard, only 2 colors have been used to perform website analytics. There is a gray and there is a yellow. Very simple. You can see that the page views are increasing in this chart. Or for example, on Saturdays and Sundays, there are less views. And at the bottom, this chart is showing the most visited topics of the website. Here is another example and our last example for this lecture. Notice the use of colors here. Again, it is very simple. It has only 2 colors, blue and gray. This is a what-if analysis of the impact of minimum wage at, let's say, your company. Blue is below minimum wage, gray is above minimum wage. For quite some time, people within your company and throughout the country have been talking about raising the minimum wage. Because you have a lot of people on staff who are hourly, you need to address the ramifications of how a possible government mandated raise will affect costs of the company. For example, this is a scatter plot showing the status of each individual employee at the moment in terms of their hourly rates. Alright, we will continue our discussion in the next lecture. We will be talking about color blindness and tips on designing colorblind friendly visualizations.